Hi everyone, here's an in-depth look at week 6 in the Pro Mazda, which is Monza. Lap was a 46.95 in default late afternoon. Now when coming into the Parabolica, you need to make sure you brake at a reasonable distance. You don't want to be having to settle the car on entry. So don't let the rear get unsteady and turn into a fairly late apex, but bring it right in, then accelerate out. In a lot of the higher open wheel cars, you'll notice they can push the car out because they have the throttle to do it, but in this car, full throttle doesn't really alter its line very much, so there's not really much reason to use the whole track. You're just adding track distance. And inside here, some people run it, but it's outside the white line, so for this purpose I don't use them there. Okay, so coming into Sector 1, I'm braking between the 100 meter and the 50 meter marker, probably at about 70. Maybe about 80 actually, for this thing, and you go down into second. Now the trick to here isn't to brake as late as you can, it's to carry the momentum up and over the initial inside curb. So you brake and then turn in and you get off the brakes quickly. You don't want to brake deep, then have to catch the car and overturn it to get into the corner. It should glide smoothly and up over this initial apex. So I'm still letting off the brakes when I'm turning in, and you're getting it up and over the curb. Now not too far. If you get the car up on that grass on exit, it's an off track and it will slow you down. I'll give you a slow down penalty. Now you're turning right slightly and to the left, and you want to either barely touch this inside orange curb or don't touch it at all. And then settle the car up and get back on the full throttle. You want to use all the track on exit. This is a corner that takes a bit of getting used to, but I find if you over push to start with, then you're constantly kind of chasing the car. So start braking early, brake even at the 100 meter marker, and practice getting into the apex, and then slowly start pushing the braking marker deeper and deeper, and to the point you're not getting into the apex constantly. And you want to kind of ease the throttle on and exit because you don't want to spin the rear wheels up. It's quite easy to do that. Now again here, you're kind of getting on the brakes a bit earlier than you absolutely could because it's important to carry the speed up over the inside curbing. If you're too late and you miss that inside curbing, it closes the corner off too much for the second apex. So braking just after the 100 meter marker, you're aiming up to get the car up over here. So you turn in, take a good amount of this curb, and this will open the corner up, kind of continue to turn through it. Then you're going to get the car sharp back right. Now you can sort of either do it two ways. It depends how well you've opened the corner with that first apex. If it's a bit shallow, you might want to take a bit of this curbing to get the car through a tighter line through there. But if you've opened it up well, you can usually take a fairly minimal amount of that. You turn back to the right. Now I've only sort of touched it there. And that's given me a good exit. If, for instance, I had tried to go deep here and not quite made this apex, kind of followed the car through this line, then you'd have to lose so much time to get it out, turned in, and through this next apex. So it's very important to get the right line through the first curb here. Heading down to this next fairly 90-degree corner. So you're braking in more of a straight line, and you can trail a little bit in there to get the front end in, but realistically you're just trying to bring the car into the apex, then quickly get in the throttle and push it out. And use all the runoff area when you go back on the throttle. And the same more or less for this next corner. You're braking after the 50 metre marker. You're turning in, you're clipping the apex, and you're pushing the car out wide. There's only really one line through those corners. And while they're not the hardest corners overall, if you do miss the apex, you can find yourself out getting it off track. Now this is probably the most important corner of the game. It's very easy to brake too late and miss the first apex, which will compromise you through the next series of corners. So you're braking between the 150 metre marker and you're carrying the brake slightly into the apex. So I didn't trail it as much as I thought there, but I still am trailing a little bit into the turning point. Now you want to get the car fairly hard up on this inside curb here, again, to open the corner up. If you're too late and your front left's up here, then you're going to be chasing the next apex too much. So you throw it up over there, then you quickly get back on the throttle. Now to open the apex for the third corner, you want to kind of drive the car up on this right-hand curb without touching any of these sort of bollards on the right-hand side here. So you bring it back to the right and drive it up here. This will unsettle the car a little bit, but that gives you the more direct line to this third apex, then you can just turn straight and get up and over there. While the corners at Monza may seem sort of simple to start with, they actually kind of often lead into another corner. So if you're slightly wide on entry into the first apex of any sequence, then you tend to be offline through the whole sequence, and you can just throw tenths away quite easily. Now I'm braking roughly at the 50 metre marker. Again, bringing the car into the apex, carrying quite a lot of speed and not using all the track, just pushing it out to about the middle or 3/4 track mark, then bringing it back into the white line to minimise the distance. Now again, you can get time by driving in there, but I'm not, because I think it's probably against the iRacing rules. And that's lap completed. For a track that's considered kind of like a, I don't know, like a circuit version of an oval, it really doesn't drive that way at all. A lot of really high speed corners that you have to get the car through, and even the chicanes aren't exactly slow like you'd see at something like Zelda. So I think quite a great track in this car.